Hey everyone, today we are taking a look at Star Watching Terrace in adventure mode, and I wanted to go over one thing before we start looking at the dungeon. Now there's a couple mechanics that are kind of challenging in this dungeon, and one of them is dispelling everybody when they get a buff on them. So the first thing we're going to do is go over what you should do with that, and go into your character screen and down to race. It's important that you have Surging Tide activated. It's this top one, because when you use your flash ability, it will dispel that buff that you get from the boss that will kill you if you don't have it dispelled. So this way everyone can dispel themselves if the healers miss getting you dispelled. Okay, to start off, we're going to look at this from a DPS point of view as opposed to a tanks. But for the tanks, you're going to have 3 tanks, and you're going to switch off at 8 stacks, maybe 9 if you really need to. So we're going to have these AoEs. Just avoid the AoEs when they pop up. Next, if you get these purple circles around you, just move out of the way. You'll see here we're moving out. Okay. Up next is going to be the push out attack, or the pull in, depending on where you are. If you are close to the boss is going to push the people out that are close. You can see the red text going out. They need to run back in very quickly. Then the boss will attack the players further out, and they'll pull them back in. And so those players that are further out need to move out. The players that are close need to move back in. So you're just doing the opposite of what happens, so you don't get caught in both attacks. All right, next we're going to do this section where you have to dispel. We have our healers broken up into groups. We have 2 healers with the far group, and 2 rows with healers in the close group. So the healers that are far away, one healer will go first and dispel, and then the next healer will dispel anything left over. And the same with in close. One healer will dispel, and then the next healer will dispel them. So you'll see this here. Some people will get dispelled, and then the next group of people will get dispelled. Remember, if you don't get dispelled, you will get killed here. So use the flash to move backwards so that it will dispel yourself. That way you are not killed when that section is over. It's really important to have as many players up, especially if you're doing a smaller group. So definitely the dispel is important to make sure that you have as much DPS up as you can. Now here we're breaking up into 2 groups. You can see the darker group text was over further, and the lighter here. So we're going to bring the balls together one at a time. So you can see those balls just crossed paths there. And the ones that are, they're going to do that next again. Now, healers, make sure you're using damage mitigation during this section. Tanks, if you have too many stacks, that I found that often would kill me there when the balls would collide. So this is important. Also, why you keep the stacks down and switch a little bit more often, and use damage mitigation to lower that. All right, up next is the energy overflow, and for this one, I find that the boss doesn't move, so tanks can move out as well. But your DPS, you're going to want to move further away from the boss. And this is when the orbs start to swirl around. You can see they're going out in a circular pattern. And so if you stay back at a certain point, you can get to a safe spot where the orbs don't hit you. So just kind of find that safe spot and stay there. You can see that a lot of the players are grouped right there, and the orbs are just going to swirl past without actually hitting you. And if you find that you're getting hit a lot, just move further back. Now for DPS, I know that's hard. You need to stay in range. For tanks, I just moved a lot further back. And then I kind of stood in a safe spot where the orbs didn't hit me. So once that goes by, we're getting another round of the AoEs. Move out of the AoE here and avoid that. That's pretty simple. Siege should be up next. You'll get the red text over your head. Just move out away from the group. If the group is, if you end up not moving, group, just make sure you're not in that purple circle. All right, so after this, we're going to do the pull and push in if you had that, but we skipped it. So for this, everybody gets unique signs. This is not like normal mode. So you have to memorize where those signs are, and then you have to look at your screen at the buff, and you go to the one where that symbol was. So For me, I find it easier to kind of memorize 3 instead of all 4. So I know that if it's one of the ones I didn't remember, then it's in the 4th spot. It helps if the raid also communicates which corners are which. If you don't get into the right symbol, you will turn into a frog, and I think it's a 60-second counter before that frog effect goes away, which is really a big deal when you are either switching tanks or you're supposed to be healing or doing DPS, especially in a smaller group. So it's important to make sure you know how you do that. Now the rest of the fight is mostly just a repeat. Move out of the way of these circles, and the boss is going to attack the nearest players and push them out, and they'll have to run back in. Afterwards, he will pull the furthest players back in, and you will have to move back out. So that's pretty simple mechanic. It starts to look like the mechanics are overlapping. Here you move out of the way and the boss is attacking the closest players. Afterwards, he will pull the further players in and you'll have to move back out. Okay, so again, we're moving out here, and then seeds are happening. Again, spread out so that you're not overlapping other players without the seeds. And the seed buff will drop off in just a second. All right, there it goes. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to group back up. I think that the Dispel should be next. Yes, it is. So make sure you're being dispelled. Move out of the way of these circles, which are not very well timed with dispelling. If you have that buff on you still and you didn't get dispelled, make sure you use that flash skill to clear off your debuff so that you don't die. All right. Up next, we get the balls again. So we have the dark text go to one side. They're going to the left. And the light text are going to the right where that lighter marker is. And then when the balls spawn here, just move out of the way of those circles. And then the balls will follow you. You have to intersect 2 of the balls together. So you can see that these 2 balls are going to intersect first and use damage mitigation during this period. And then we're going to intersect 2 more balls and clear those. And then we'll get the last 2 balls and clear those. So this section, again, tanks, if you have too many stacks, it will be a little bit of a problem. So just be careful. Damage mitigation is important for healers. And just make sure that if you have the balls chasing you, to go ahead and explode those. It does give a counter with a buff, so if you do too many too close together, you will get too many stacks for that, and it could kill additional players. So spacing them out a little bit is a good idea. All right, so we're going to go back and do this wave of these purple orbs coming out again. Again, just find a safe distance where you're not getting hit by the orbs and you're kind of in that in-between space. You can see here that kind of from a top-down view that if she stands right in that spot, that this particular person won't get hit. So here again, that kind of little line section, you can always stand so you won't get hit by these swirling orbs. And if you get hit too many times by these, you will die. So again, it's just finding that right spot to stand. All right, the boss is going to attack the nearest players again. Avoid these AoEs, and if you get pushed back, just run back in. Now he's going to attack the furthest players, and you're going to be dragged in, and then just move back out. All right, so again, next he's going to attack the nearest players again. So if you don't get out quick enough, you'll get hit by that again. We skipped it and went to this next mechanic. Again, memorize at least like 3 of the spots so that when you get that buff on you, you know which spot to go to. So here we're going to go to number 1 in this case. And the numbers are very helpful because then people can call out in Discord or whatever chat you're using as to where to go. So when this star crash attack happens, if you're in the wrong one or not in one at all, you will get hit with frog for 60 seconds. And if you're in the correct one, you'll be fine after the attack goes. So I'm missing the animation for the attack here, but once the animation is done with the stuff falling, the tanks can run back in if you want to so that the boss doesn't move too far. There's still a couple seconds where he's immune. So here he's going to attack the nearest players again, and you're just going to move back in if you're close, avoid these AoEs, and then the boss will attack the furthest players and pull them in. All right, there it goes for that particular mechanic. All right, after this should be the Dispel unless they do another round of the attacking the characters. Yep. All right, he's attacking the closest characters again, and then the furthest characters. So again, we're going to move out. You don't want to get hit by both of those. All right, now we're getting seeds, so we're going to spread out with the seeds, and after this should be the Dispel. So again, we have the two groups, so everybody who's melee or in that last two columns of the raid frame stacked on the boss, everybody who's further out stacked on the yellow moon or in that vicinity, and then one healer dispels, and then the next healer dispels, and you can see that Pip just used the flash there so that she could dispel herself. So if you miss that dispel, use the flash. We're up to orbs again. All the people with the dark text are going to the one darker marker over to the side, and the people with the light text are moving towards the number 4. Those orbs will spawn, and then you're going to cross the orbs so that you can get rid of the balls. All right, so again, when you can see it kind of does a little bit of a buff there. So if you hit them too long, it's a quick one, but damage mitigation is good. Don't pop them all at exactly the same time, but once you get rid of those, you should be pretty good. All right, those last two, there we go. All right, so damage mitigation again, you can see each time they pop, the whole health of the raid goes down. So healers, just make sure you're using heals, big heals during that section to make sure you keep everybody up. All right, so now we're just going to continue on. I think that the next thing is going to be these orbs circling out. So again, you find a good location that is so that you don't get hit by these orbs as they circle. So they're going to go ahead and swirl around. And if you can find that center section, it looks like they're going both directions, so it makes it a little bit more challenging. But you should be able to find a spot that you don't get hit at a lot. Again, the further out you are, the easier it is to find more space between these orbs as they circle. As a tank, and it's a melee, I found that I just moved further out. The boss won't move, so it's fine. So again, he's going to pull or push the close characters out and pull the far ones in. Just avoid these AoEs. This is just a repeat of the same mechanics. So now we're doing these crystals that are going to appear. So stay out of the yellow AoE when it spawns and just wait for the crystals to appear. So here's the crystals. There's 3 of them. You're going to go around and kill each of the crystals. So just go over and DPS the crystals. So we're going to get this one down. And this, I think, is, I'm not sure what the point of this mechanic is. It's not all that challenging compared to the rest of the mechanics for this raid. So just go to each of these 3 crystals. And again, we're just going to DPS them. I don't see a lot. It is taking damage. I don't see a ton of damage. Maybe they're supposed to be damaging the other characters more while they're still up. So maybe this is a little more challenging for healers to make sure you're in range of everybody and getting those crystals down. But go ahead and rotate around and kill each of those crystals. And then you should be okay to go back on the boss. He's doing another round of these orbs, so just stay out a little bit. It looks like these are all going the same direction, so you should be able to easily find a spot that you can stand, that you're in range and still not getting hit by these orbs. There you go. So she's in a good spot now, and just DPS the boss until he is dead. So hopefully you found this helpful as to how to do the mechanics and a little bit of some hints as to what to do with it. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.